Lock of the Night, and on Twitter at MMALOTN. Just want to give a quick shout out to everybody that's been supporting the podcast so far. The first two episodes have been a little bit of a challenge to get done, but this third one seems to be going a little bit smoother. So I'm hoping as time goes on, it will be just as easy as it's been becoming. Today we're going to be tackling UFC Glendale, which goes down this Saturday, April 14th on Big Fox. Just a reminder, since I am on a three bet streak right now, my picks are now switched over to paid. Once I take my next L, I'll go back to being free. But I'm going to continue to, carry this momentum on and hopefully top my last winning streak, which was 10 straight bets. I have two plays posted on betmma.tips/lock of the night. Both of them are straight picks, so head on over there and check them out if you haven't yet. It's not too expensive, so don't worry, you don't have to take out a loan for it or anything. I'm currently riding a 12-2 streak actually in 2018 for 16.9 units with a 24% return on investment. Just a quick note, I've been thinking about it for most of this week as I've been trying to figure out how to, format my podcast when I have paid picks. I don't obviously want to reveal my picks or anything like that, so I still want to put out content for you guys to listen to and maybe help influence any of your bets that you guys might be thinking about. So moving forward after today, or after this podcast, I'm going to be breaking down the headliners of every card if my pick is paid. If it's free, obviously I'll cover my free picks, so you guys can have your breakdown in that form. But moving forward, I will be breaking down headliners starting with next week with Barboza and Lee. So today I'll be covering the Israel Adesanya and Marvin Vettori fight, as it was voted on by you guys. You guys believe that Israel Adesanya is the lock of the night for UFC Glendale, but who knows? Maybe I picked him, maybe I didn't. There's only one way to find out. Either way, let's just get it started. I'm going to get with the quick picks, then get to the Adesanya and Vettori fight, and then give you guys my Hail Mary, and we can call it a day. So, right off the bat, let's kick it off with, I got Sanders over Williams, I got Lopez over Perez, I got Butler over Widrick. I'm sure I butchered that, but y'all know who I'm talking about. Okami over Lima, Dobson over Mueller, Burns over Morit, Tavares over Jotko, Hayes over Moraga, Salikov over Rainey, Carlos Jr. over Boach, Casey over Watterson, and right to, again, the lock of the night that you guys have chose, Israel Adesanya against Marvin Vettori. So let's start off with Israel Adesanya. One of the first fights I saw of his was him against Gallard, who was fighting about 2 or 3 weight classes above what he should have been. Looking a little thicker than a Snickers, if you want to call it that. He was completely undersized against Adesanya. It was just, Adesanya adding a name to his record, pretty much. Within the first minute and a half, 2 minutes, you could definitely see that Gallard was already looking for a way out. And Adesanya kind of just had his way with him. Like, he was never really in danger in that fight. And I don't even think that Gallard at that point in his career should have even deserved to be in the same cage as Adesanya. It was funny that Adesanya actually won the interim middleweight Australian Fighting Championship title in that fight, against a guy that's not even a middleweight. And the fact that it was even an interim title made it even more hilarious. Anyway, moving on to his UFC debut with Rob Wilkinson. He did show his flaws in that fight, which is why I'm kind of surprised that so many people are confident in him. He did get control against the cage for a couple of minutes, in the first round against Wilkinson. And I think if he went up against a stronger grappler, he might get controlled a little bit easier, which, might pose even more problems for Adesanya. However, when Adesanya can establish the range and the distance, he's very dangerous. Wilkinson has terrible striking, and he was easily getting picked apart by Adesanya when Adesanya was, able to stay away from Wilkinson and keep him on the end of his punches. There were instances where Wilkinson closed the distance and engaged in the clinch, but he was more so just trying to keep Adesanya in place. He wasn't really landing much damage, and Adesanya didn't really look like he was in much trouble, even though he was getting controlled. He may have lost that first round, like it's just when it comes down to control and getting grapple fucked, it's kind of worrisome when it comes to Adesanya. But, at a certain point, Rob was definitely looking for a way out. As soon as he heard the referee was close to stopping this fight, he kind of just took a seat, and Adesanya was, he got the victory in that. I don't think Wilkinson is up to Adesanya's level, which is why Adesanya, he didn't look too impressive in that fight, but was able to still get a stoppage. Moving on to Marvin Vettori, in his Uda fight, he looked very strong. He did get taken down, but was able to just reverse the position through bare strength and get on top of Uda. Uda didn't really try to get up much. I think he wanted that fight where it was just so he could possibly throw up some submissions or catch Vettori in something, but it was mainly just to stall what was going on in that fight. Vettori did throw enough, though, on top. It didn't seem like it landed too hard or too precise, but he was still keeping active enough to keep the action on the ground. Vettori seemed very aware in that fight too. He was on top in full guard, and Uda did have the figure four around him for most of that fight, but he was still very aware of what was going on around him. He, especially at the end when he did lock up the guillotine that ended up getting the fight for him, he saw the neck, he saw the opportunity and jumped on it immediately and just had no issues, jumping, pretty much pulling guard just to squeeze on that guillotine some more, and eventually got the tap. Moving on to his Miranda fight, that's the fight that's probably the most, stylistically, the closest to Adesanya. He showed great aggression in that fight. He was always in Miranda's face. He often did something when he was catching a kick. Whenever Miranda threw a kick, like for example, the first time he threw a kick, Vettori caught it and then rushed forward with a flurry and pretty much stifled anything that Miranda was doing with that combination. The second kick that he actually caught, he actually went for a takedown and got it. It was pretty easily, and he just pretty much rode out the rest of the round on top. He slowed down in the second, obviously, which is what people have been knocking on Vettori for, is his cardio. He allowed Miranda to pretty much win most of that round until Vettori was able to kind of just muscle Miranda down. I thought he won that round, even though he was getting picked apart on the feet. He got the takedown and he controlled Miranda from on top. He was gassed as hell in the third. Miranda was pushing the pace with his striking, but Vettori was always moving out of bad positions. Whenever he found himself in a corner, he would move forward with a couple of heavy strikes just to get that distance back, and then he would move into a better position where he wasn't, pinned up against the cage. He was eventually able to get the takedown at the end of the fight when he looked completely exhausted, but that still shows his heart and the fact that he's able to, push through those tough moments. I think Vettori wins this fight and pulls off the upset. He'll be able to keep the fight at a distance where Adesanya's striking won't be able to shine, and you should expect a lot of grappling from Vettori as he did in the Miranda fight. The question is, will Adesanya be able to shuck off those late takedowns when Vettori is gassed? I don't think he will. I think Vettori will be able to land those takedowns in the first two rounds. He might lose the third round, but I think he'll be able to stay in the fight. In that Akhmedov fight, he was getting beat on, but he still managed to take it. He still managed to not win the fight, but he was still able to get far in that fight. I don't think Adesanya will be able to finish him, and especially at that line being at plus 220, I think that's just crazy. So I definitely see, I'm not batting an eye. I've seen some people even put a max bet on Vettori, and I'm not really batting an eye at that. Like it's definitely a possibility, which is why, again, I'm kind of shocked that most people are picking Adesanya as their lock of the night. So again, final verdict, I think Vettori takes this fight via decision, possibly 29-28, losing the third round, and Adesanya will probably pick up his first loss. All right, well, the co-main event, Carlos Condit, I have him over Alex Oliveira. Close fight again. Condit's kind of, a pretty decent underdog, but I'm just not completely sold on Oliveira, especially after he snubbed me in that Yancey fight. But again, I'm not trying to break this fight down, just quick picks. So again, Condit over Oliveira and Gaethje over Poirier. So that's pretty much it. Oh, yes, sorry, I did forget about the Hail Mary play. I do have a pretty spicy one, especially with Vettori being on it. Let me just pull that up for you guys real quick. So I got in my Hail Mary play, I got Luke Sanders, Matthew Lopez, Arjun Buller, Yushin Okami, Marvin Vettori, and Justin Gaethje. And then in my Super Hail Mary parlay, I got Luke Sanders, Matthew Lopez, Arjun Buller, Yushin Okami, Shana Dobson, Gilbert Burns, Brad Tavares, Wilson Hayes, Muslim Salikov, Antonio Carlos Jr., Courtney Casey, Carlos Condit, Marvin Vettori, and Justin Gaethje. So that's pretty much my Hail Mary and Super Hail Mary plays. Again, I won't be posting them on Twitter, so you guys are forced to listen to this. Anyway, yeah, that's pretty much a wrap. I'll see you guys next week for UFC Atlantic City, headlined by Edson Barboza and Kevin Lee. Good luck with your plays, and I'm gone.